should we go into the discoveries?
Yeah, which one do you want to actually do? The pyramids one is very, very short. I don't even know if we want to talk about, not pyramids, the thing that's older than the pyramid.
I think the CSS Hunley was the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another alert, you get me started talking about the Civil War, forget about it. You can cash it in. The rest of this is the Civil War show. Unless he brings up migrants, which he might. Yeah, the Hunley, I mean, I love talking about the CSS Hunley and the technology and such during the Civil War. And just the creativity of people who are desperate, you know, when you push humans into a corner, their ingenuity, when they're having to fight back. I mean, that's where most of our technological advancements come from.
Just the fact that it had sunk 2 times before they finally gave up on it, just like...
Yeah, well, they didn't give up on it. They couldn't get it back. I mean, they would have done it again. It's crazy. This is like kamikaze submarine warfare.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
And it reminds me of that submarine that we created back in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, that never used, that Ben Franklin. It's called the Turtle, wasn't it?
Yeah, something along those lines. If you watch, there's a TV show that was running that actually showed it. What's it called? Turn. Yeah. It's a TV show that just ended about 4 months ago, I think. And part of that, they actually showed it and like totally used it as if it was like perfectly capable of going underwater and staying there for a good amount of time.
I got to live in reality. That's why I can't watch movies. I'm like looking at them like, no way.
Oh man, don't get me started on movies.
We would have ended the British blockade. Who would have John Paul Jones going out there and risking his life to fight the entire Royal Navy by himself with just he and his crew?
Yeah, except for
too.
Except for if it had worked, and like say they could have an infinite air supply somehow that just magic exists in this world. Even that, they would still learn how to fight against it eventually.
Well, that was the problem. The Confederates built the Virginia. They could, they built one ironclad and it worked, but once that's out of the bag, the North has all to make hundreds of them.
Yep.
Yeah, and furthermore, it's not like they couldn't just steal ships like they did with the USS Virginia.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were creative. I mean, they pulled that bad, it was scuttled, and they went in, pulled it out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You didn't really go into the store that much, but what's going to happen to it now? Like, because after they found it, it was barely recognizable, right? But
yeah, I mean, it was the amount of just, what was the word that they used? Incrustations. To me, that sounds like a crab or something. But basically it sunk down there and so much gunk had built up on it, because it was metal and it's just this rust. And the process that they had to go through with this and the monitor, we had to literally pull it out of there, very fragile because, it could break. Then they had to put it in salt water, and then slowly over the course of like 15 years they had to desalinize it. So like you'd start off up here with the salt water content, then you would just lower it and lower it and lower it gradually over time to keep it from falling apart. And they said it looked like a barnacled sea monster when they brought it out. Like, you couldn't even tell what it was.
They have a picture on the article of the...
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? She's so beautiful.
Looks good.
But of the uncleaned one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually look that bad. But you'd be surprised how much this, like, when you go to the Mediterranean, for instance, you can find, like, that famous clockwork mechanism that's supposedly to predict when astrological events are going to occur.
I'm not guessing that's Clockwork Orange, is it?
Well, it's often called the first computer, and it was something that I don't even remember what the mechanism is called, but it's still one of those ones that it's not complete. We don't know exactly what it was for, but when it was drudged up, it was just like a solid piece of rust. But all of the care and work that has gone into that,
Yeah.
This kind of thing is becoming a lot more common, especially with when they're learning. We're learning a lot from the Europeans in terms of how to do restoration work like this.
Yeah. I can't wait to see the stuff we're going to find in the future, and it's going to be amazing. But yeah, 8 sailors died in that. You know, they got their bodies out in 2001, and it took another 14 years for them to get it to this case, and they still have to do the inside, which is going to be a pain in the rear, because, I mean, it's tight in there. And the people working on it, that's what they mentioned, was like just the courage. It took, like what you said, it already went down twice, lost all of one crew, most of another. They still climbed down in there, and, you know, just candles to light the way, no outside air supply.
Like, how insane do you have to be to go into something like that? Like, yep,
Wow.
we're gonna.
Yeah. How insane do you have to be to stand there and fight the British Army at Lexington? You know.
Although I like the part on the on this thing where it's going like, well, we found a explosion from a torpedo, but we don't know what caused the problem.
What was that? There's like an educated person working on it. I was like, yeah, it went off while it was still attached to the Hunley. It's like, we know this. I mean, the Housatonic went down, the Hunley went down.
And
it's like, we don't know anything. There's a series of events. Yeah, well, they built the boat. They get in the boat. They go out there. Yeah, but still, it's the torpedo.
It's not that hard to piece together. And furthermore, when they're operating on their own air supply, it's like, pretty
why
easy.
Did Lincoln die? I don't know. It's a series of events. All I think is the bullet in the back of the head.
There is some contention with Lincoln about whether or not his doctor.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have been. I don't even want to say the word, but, you know, I'm being so PC tonight. But basically, he would have been a vegetable. You know.
Yeah.
Just boom. It's like, it's not like he's Honest Abe after that. Yeah, he could have lived and could have drooled out the side of his mouth, and Mary Todd could have fed him pudding for the next 10 years.
But with these guys, it's like, it's obvious. Like, I think what he's more talking about is whether or not the torpedo killed the people directly.
Yeah. Might have knocked him out, and you can imagine the reverberation in that thing. I mean, it was metal and an explosion like that.
Well, also, when you have a giant hole in the bow, it's kind of hard to maintain air pressure.
Because the article didn't say it, but it sank a fair distance. I mean, I wanted to say it was like 10, 20. It's been a long time since I've seen how far away it was. It might even have been 150 feet away. I mean, I know it was a good distance away from where the Housatonic went down.
Well, that doesn't really mean much when you have a fuselage. When you have a fuselage so shapely, it's of course it's going to drift down in a different way.
But the other thing was the Confederates, and I'm going back to my Civil War knowledge from like my Civil War cards I read whenever I was like 18, so we're talking 20 years ago. But it did send the signal. They had a little flash signal. They could come up toward the surface. They could send a signal to say like mission complete, and that was sent.
Oh.
According to the Confederate accounts. You know, Pierre Beauregard wrote the account, you know, missing in action and all of this. You know, there were reports that these guys did send the signal.
Well, so, that's the kind of thing that needs to be mentioned when they're talking about. That
contradicts everything in this article, though.
Yeah. Because how the heck would you surface if you're going to Of course, you know, the fact is a pretty easy way to have a flash of light you know, and possibly be mistaken as a signal would be an explosion
or Confederate glory. You know, the stories, the lost cause, the what ifs. They did fulfill their mission, and yes, they sent this message. It could be that.
But they did
fulfill they didn't go down with those Yankees.
But they did fulfill their mission, which was to take down a ship with a torpedo
Yeah.
And their main means of signal was a flash of light. What else is an explosion other than a flash of light?
Yeah, it was apparently like a lantern, you know. I don't know. But if what they say here is true, I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna say I don't think anybody knows.
No.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like, first of all, there's no way they're coming back from a hole in the bow like that, but also, it's pretty easy to tell what they died of.
Yeah, or it's just a flash of light out at sea. I mean, you see it in ripples of the water, and you know, if you're looking for it, you can see it pretty easily, even if that's not actually what it was.
Or moonlight.
Yeah, moonlight off the rippling waves.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine the puddles, whatever you call those. You know, when you throw a rock in the water and it like ripples out.
Mm-hmm.
What an explosion of a ship would do.
Yeah, the ripples and waves.
Yeah. 14-ton submarine. That's a lot.
It weighed that much?
Yep, that's according to this. And, you know, it does deserve mention. It was the first submarine to sink an enemy vessel in warfare. It was the predecessor to the German U-boats that were so effective in World War I, World War II.
Oh, yeah.
Though something that never really gets mentioned on that, it was certainly not the only experimental kind of submarine at the time. There were plenty of folks experimenting with this kind of stuff. There were various different tries. We often like to say that the Revolutions one was like the first invention of it, and it wasn't. Not by a long shot.
Leonardo da Vinci had him in his notes because that man had everything.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, but look at diving bells
He had
and
a
whatnot.
tank. Yeah.
You know, if you start looking at diving bells, that goes back millennia. So
What, diving bell?
yeah,
I have no idea what that is.
it's
used to fit.
it's quite literally a bell that you take underwater and you just, well, I'm talking about the oldest form. Obviously nowadays they're very different, but diving bells were literally people would take a bell, since water won't go up it, that gives a little bit of breathable air to go down with. So you have a means of diving, and this is something that goes back millennia, quite literally.
You wear that like over your head?
Well, you wouldn't wear it. You'd have it on a string.
Over you.
Yeah.
I think you would like want it. So basically you could go up and breathe in it.
Yeah. Precisely. And that's something that's been used for, I mean, it goes back millennia, but it's been used in common usage for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, I just Googled it. Aristotle first described it in 4th century BC.
The master of those who know.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I had to Google this.